This episode of the Cantina Band is brought to you by Alpha Dog Systems. Listeners of the show get 5% off any desktop computer by entering the discount code CANTINA. Wow, I didn't even think they had bars this deep down on Coruscant.
Upper levels, lower levels, who cares, man? A bar's a bar. Let's drink.
I don't know. This place looks kind of shady.
Hey, it's not me, it's the protocol droid. He's messing with us.
He has been acting kind of funny lately.
Master, I would love to eliminate these meatbags for you. Will you let me, please?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with your protocol droid.
HK-12, you just shut it. You don't know the half of it, Jeff.
We're running out of bars to go to. Next thing you know, we're going to have to start hanging out on Nar Shaddaa.
Ew. Nar Shaddaa?
Not gonna happen. There's a spot to set up.
Activating holonet. Connection established. Beginning broadcast.
And welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Band. See, it didn't take as long as the last time. Brian's all enthusiastic now.
No, I am enthusiastic, but boy, I read some of the comments on the iTunes, and they were harsh that we took so long between episodes 0 and 1. We'll be better, we promise.
Us. Hey, it's Adam Paulauski. Of course, I'm joined by Brian Brushwood. How you doing, Brian?
Do you know what is amazing? I have slept in the same bed 4 nights in a row.
I know.
Right?
Huh?
Right?
Wow.
No, it's great. It's great to be home. I'm actually working out, getting back in shape, trying to drop this last 7 pounds or so.
But of course, if you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you know we just don't do it with me and Brian. We bring in a mystery guest every week. And of course, we got someone I've been really looking forward to chatting with. Brian, who's joining us today?
I have no idea. I picked up a random hobo off the street. He claims to be from the show, the Totally Rad Show. It's Jeff Cannata.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I have been a hobo these last little while, but I'm ready to enter the world of Star Wars with you guys now.
Yeah. So real quick, where's your enthusiasm for this? Because are you a big MMO guy in general?
I have been in the past. I am not currently playing any MMOs compulsively as I have in the past. And I suspect that once this one comes out, I'll be playing this one compulsively. My excitement level has been very low until those moments when I've actually played it at trade shows. Last time we played it was at PAX, and I went into our meeting and they're like, "Oh, why don't you just sit down and play it?" And I was like, "Okay." Alex is the one who's all excited about this, but I'm gonna. Oh boy, this is fun. Oh, I like shooting missiles out of my arm. Oh boy, this is cool. So I get excited every time I play it, and then I go away from it. And I'm like, I don't need another MMO in my life. But
it's funny. In fact, actually, that's the number one comment. Everyone I talk to about their enthusiasm level, everyone's like, "Oh, I just don't know if I'll have the time. I don't know if I'll have the time." I have the feeling like if it's good, you'll discover the time. You'll
make the time. That's true, and I'm sure I'm going to love it when it comes out. I know, we're going to have a Totally Rad Show guild or whatever they're calling it in Sweater. Are we calling it Sweater officially? Is it called Sweater?
Sweater? I've heard most people just call it Tor.
Oh, I like Sweater.
I call it Tor myself.
Sweater
Tor doesn't roll off my tongue.
Sweater. I don't like the focus on sweats. That for some reason that bothers me.
It's like a cozy blanket that you wrap yourself in every night before you go to sleep.
It's a guy trying to quit smoking. He's the sweater. I just need my fix.
Exactly. And the same thing happened with me. Brian's had a chance to play the game at E3. I had a chance to play it at PAX East, stood in line many, many hours just to do that because I didn't use and abuse my press privileges, so to speak. And walked away like, oh my God, this is everything I've been wanting out of a new Star Wars MMO for a while now. And so definitely the enthusiasm level has been going up and up and up and up through the roof. And December 20th cannot get here quick enough for me.
I guess that's our first big story is apparently they heard our cries and they moved forward the date by 48 whole hours, which...
Yeah, well, at least for the European folks, they announced that they were pushing up the European release date from the 22nd to the 20th. So it's going to be a simultaneous global release.
So this is wow. You made that sound sexy. So what I wanted to ask, what this made me think of, is that difference of 2 days. Number one is going to mean a lot to the people who are excited, of course, overseas, but also it makes me think about how whenever a game like this comes out, it's almost as though there's a worldwide race that starts. Everyone wants to be the first person to hit the level cap or the end of the content or whatever it is.
Be the first to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
yeah.
Does that hold any sway to you, or is that the kind of thing where it's like for me personally, I just realized it's like there's just no way. There's just no way I'm going to be that guy, so I'm not even going to think about it.
Well, for me, I'm as excited as I am to have it finally come out, and excited as I am to play it this year. There's kind of a part of me that wishes it was coming out a little later. I'm going to be wrapped up in holidays and family, and it's going to be much more difficult to convince my loved ones that I need to spend the next, X hours in front of my computer instead of, giving them holiday joy and cheer. So I feel bad for all the employees, man. Like it's rough to do a global launch of anything, let alone a MMO, and they're going to lose their holiday season. I mean, I'm sure they're excited to put the game out, but it's a rough time to launch anything, and something this big and this anticipated. It's going to be fraught with, I'm sure, some speed bumps. So, it's a tough time of year.
I disagree, and mainly, but then again, I don't know if I'm going to be atypical. I know that this is for those guys who don't know. My day job is touring around doing live magic shows at colleges, and this is like the 2-week complete dead zone. Occasionally, I'll get booked for something on New Year's Eve, but this could not have possibly come out at a better time for me. Like I really could.
Who did you pay off?
Yeah, right. I really could just drop off for 72 hours straight and not get a single thing done, and it really wouldn't affect. I mean, obviously my family would get annoyed, but luckily my family, a lot of them live here in town, so I see them a bunch. So I don't know. This is a good time for me. I'm excited about
it. I'm in the same boat. We have a smaller, we're a smaller family, not a whole lot of extended family out this way. So, Christmas will most likely be either Christmas Eve, everyone will come to the parents' house, or we'll go to the sister's house, have that one day together, and then the rest of the time I'm free and open and clear.
Now you seem like the kind of person who would dive in and try to be first and try to.
I'm not. I'm really convinced from everything I've seen BioWare is showing and talking about that usually the race to get to level cap is so that you can start playing the quote unquote real content. A lot of the MMOs are like that the real content doesn't start until you hit the cap and you're able to do like the end game kind of stuff. I'm really convinced BioWare has laced and seeded this game with so much to do all the way through the leveling process that getting to 50 is not going to be my major objective. My major objective is really to take it all in, just kind of smell the virtual roses, so to speak. So
Isn't that a little scary, though? Isn't that a little scary that they are trying to convince a consumer base, the MMO audience, to experience these kind of games in a different way? And I think that is a very risky proposition in the sense that those people that are trying to speed through stuff and get to the end, if there isn't a lot of meat there at the end, and it looks like they're going to have plenty of stuff to do, there's going to be a whole planet at endgame and all that stuff. Yeah. But if that end isn't as beefy, if what they really are looking for you to do is experience the story and all these different myriad versions of the story on the way to the cap, and their solution is, well, just roll up another character and start a different storyline, I think there could be a major backlash.
I think there's two issues here. And if it was any company besides BioWare, I'd say, yes, that's a very dicey proposition. Just like it was a dicey proposition for Tabula Rasa to try to take elements of first-person shooters and marry it with an MMO. And, ended up
work too well.
Exactly. So obviously trying to do anything to alter the money factory that Blizzard has figured out with World of Warcraft is scary, but BioWare has such a fantastic pedigree when it comes to telling amazing stories. So I think on the one hand, people know that they can kind of trust BioWare to tell a good story, because even if you don't like gameplay mechanics, like there's a lot about Dragon Age I didn't like while I played it, but I loved the story. I enjoyed all the cutscenes. And the second thing is, because everything is voice acted, it sort of removes that ability to you won't physically be able to get a quest, tab through a bunch of words and then run off to go do it. You sort of have to experience the story. And I'm hoping that it's the kind of thing that because you're forced to at least hear the story that you get caught up in it early on.
Yeah,
I hope so too.
Yeah, no, I think that's all of our hopes. To address this real quick, from what little they've shown us, they've been very tight-lipped, other than mentioning Illum as an endgame planet for both solo and PvP, it seems. I keep hearing conflicting things about that. I'm not sure yet. Sometimes they refer to it as a PvP thing. Sometimes I've heard them refer to it as going to be a lot of PvE solo type stuff for you to do there. But they're also talking about their operations, which is their version of endgame raids, and they've only talked about one so far, and the footage is on the site if you want to check it out. Can't remember, the Eternity Vault, it's called. And they're saying that is going to be one of those 8, 16-man group type things. And there's going to be, I think, 3 in the game at launch. The closest I ever came to end game type of content was when I was playing Star Wars Galaxies in the last few years, and they had what they called heroics, but there were only 5 of them. And, you did them long enough. We were to the point where with my regular bunch of friends, we could, if we were doing a speed run, we could blow through the 5 heroics in 3 hours.
Yeah, but I gotta feel like it'll be kind of alt mania for people. They'll get to the cap and they'll go back knowing that the entire experience from beginning to end will be a totally different story. I think people won't, I suspect and I hope that people won't have a problem going back and starting over again, especially for somebody like me who's an alt nut. Once I get to level 16 on any character, I'm like, oh, you know what I should have done? I should have done this. I should have done that. Yeah. And then I end up, so that's why like on City of Heroes, I still haven't hit the level cap, but I got like 8 characters all in the mid 30s.
That's interesting because I don't, maybe my sense is wrong and maybe my instinct is wrong, but my sense is that's not typical. That the MMO crowd, at least the people that I sort of play with, what they're doing is not story. What they're there for ain't the story. And I hope BioWare manages to change that momentum so that people really pay attention to it. And as you said, listen to the voice acting and get carried along, because obviously the IP is very much a story-based IP. Yeah. But I honestly worry about that. It's going to be very interesting to see how this community responds to this game.
Well, it is. The BioWare's definitely trying to shake things up a little, while still delivering, or at least seeming to deliver, a traditional MMO experience with, they keep saying that story is the fourth pillar, and that it's going to change everything, which kind of brings us to, our second topic. So just to wrap up on that thought, I'm really excited our EU friends, because I have plenty of EU gaming friends that are, looking forward to the game. So I'm glad we're all going to be getting in the game at the exact same time. That'll be great. Last Friday, I think some speculation was to counter the big juggernaut that is BlizzCon. They apparently lifted a media event embargo for several of the major video game sites.
Now, what does that mean? These are people who had been playing the game but now they could finally talk about it?
Yeah, apparently they gave invites out to, it looked like a dozen or so of the major websites, gave them access for about 2.5 weeks, I think.
Oh, wow. So this is not a case where they were at a convention and played for 40 minutes.
No, they brought them into closed testing and said, all right, you guys can play whatever you want, but you can only report for now on the Republic side up to like level 15 or 20, somewhere in there, like the first 20 hours of gameplay, and report on that. I really have kind of hit saturation mode with, I really know a great deal about the game just from picking over all the details over the last 6 months. So there wasn't a whole lot surprising in sort of these reviews.
Well, but what I want to know is, like, were they favorable? I mean,
yeah,
what did people think?
Generally speaking, it seems from the ones I read, for the most part, they were very favorable. It seemed the general consensus was that, the voice acting and the storytelling and the cinematic camera angles during the conversations really kind of change it up a bit. The only complaints I'm seeing, and I don't know if these are, I suppose it's what you're expecting. Some folks have said it's WoW with lightsabers, or it doesn't really break that much new ground. It's still, watching your specials and waiting for your cooldowns. But for myself, I'm not looking for them to reinvent the wheel. I like MMOs for what MMOs are. But yeah, the general consensus seems to be that most of the press seemed to enjoy what they were experiencing.
So specifically, did anyone talk about, what I'd love to know is if there's any examples of somebody who was the type of person that Jeff's talking about, where he normally would tab straight through the backstory just to get to the killing, but found himself sucked up in the actual story. Because I know there was that one write-up on, I can't remember, I think it was Penny Arcade, or maybe it was PvP, where the person, whoever wrote it said,
Penny Arcade, yeah.
Penny Arcade was talking about how normally he doesn't even think about his characters, but the storytelling, the fourth pillar, as it were, actually forced him to consider what kind of character, what kind of person he was creating.
Yeah, I went through and the one problem I had with the way some of these reviewers went about this was I was seeing more than a number of reviews that were, I didn't really play the class I wanted to play. I settled for this because I didn't want to spoil the game for me when it comes out. Well, you're reviewing the game. Play what you think you want to play.
No. I would totally do, if I had that opportunity, that's exactly the way I would have done it too. I would have not done the character I wanted to.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Even in the brief period I played it at PAX, we had, I think, an hour and a half or something to play, and I sat down and said, okay, what's the one class that I think I would be least likely to play?
And what did you go with?
Because I think I'm going to probably, be a good guy. I like being good guys. So I was like, I'm curious about Bounty Hunter. We'll check that out. And I was like, oh my God, I might want to play Bounty Hunter. This is pretty cool. Because you shoot rockets from your fist. Who doesn't like that?
Plus fire.
Yeah, but it's interesting. The most interesting stuff about the write-ups that I saw is what I haven't had a first-hand account on, and that is all the companion stuff and how crafting and harvesting work. It seems really interesting, but I'm torn because I don't know if I like the idea of being able to send someone out and do my dirty work for me and do all this sort of tedious stuff that I don't want to be a part of. But then again, am I going to be less committed to that? Am I going to be less invested in it because I'm not actively seeking out all those harvest points? Is it going to feel more like I'm running a spreadsheet than it is playing a game? I don't know. I hope not. It seemed to be pretty positive response from the people that have had more hours than I have had on it. But it remains a question mark for me.
I was going to ask, in the short time that you played it at PAX, how often did you find yourself grouping with other people? Because I'm hearing two things. One is that they want to make it to where if you want to solo, it's much easier to do so. For example, every character has a self-heal, and you, of course, can you got your two companions that you can generate to go with you wherever you go. But on the flip side, they also want to make it to where it's super easy to hook up in a group, and you don't have to, have any long-term commitments. And if somebody's playing as dark side, you could play light side, and their decisions don't necessarily affect you specifically.
Well, I sat down with my co-hosts on TRS, Dan and Alex, and we all rolled up different characters and grouped up immediately and tried to play some in a group. Interestingly, if you are the same class, at least in the starting area, when you go to your class-specific quest, you have to do that by yourself. You can't team up on a class-specific main quest, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's your story. So if you're somebody else doing the exact same thing, they are in their own separate instance of that.
Right.
But I really, really liked how they handled all of the storytelling elements. For example, using holograms. If your teammate is not in the same physical location, you can still initiate a discussion, and they can be part of it even though they're far away because they hologram them in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is a really elegant solution to a problem that I anticipated them having, which is, I want to have this conversation, but my dude's, still running from over there.
There's always a straggler in the group. Always.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was a really great way to solve that problem. And there's a lot of little things like that really streamline the process and allow you to still feel part of a group while you are kind of still doing your own thing.
Can I ask Jeff, what kind of content did you guys play when you had your sit down?
It was the starting, literally the first, I don't know, 8 or 9 quests.
Okay, so you were like on one of the starter planet origin
Yeah.
world. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I had a chance to do the Flashpoint. I did the Terrell 5
cool.
Flashpoint at PAX East, and what I liked about that was, it was very much sort of your dungeon crawl, from point A to point B. There's a bunch of stuff that happens along the way, a couple bosses, et cetera, et cetera. But the way the game would hit these dramatic moments with the group conversation element, what I thought was really interesting about that was it turns into a little bit of a mystery science theater. You know what I mean? Like people deciding how they're going to play, what choices they're going to, oh man, you chose to kill the guys. You didn't save them. What the heck?
Everybody backbites each other and starts questioning their decisions.
It was very interesting. And what I really liked about that whole thing was, the flashpoints apparently are repeatable, something you can do, over and over if you want. So if you don't get the outcome in these choices you want, you can always go back and do them again and try and get, the different route or whatever. But I like that the game rewarded you for the choice you made, not the choice that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
It just seems like, to bring it back to what Brian was talking about the, easy to pick up a group. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, I've seen in these reviews. And that I'm seeing in general, from all the info BioWare has been putting out. There'll be plenty of stuff for you to do solo, but when you feel like grouping, there'll be plenty of stuff for you to group with too.
Along with that, you guys, because when I played at E3, I only soloed. I ended up grouping with someone for literally only like 4 minutes, and then they went off one way, I went another way. But how did you guys like the die rolls to see who gets to talk? I mean, was it frustrating? Was that the kind of thing like you're just really hoping it was your turn to drive, or?
I was hoping it was. Every time it was like, oh, it's you who gets to do. Oh, me. So that's kind of fun. But I don't know. I mean,
was it fun? Was it fun?
With it.
Yeah. I mean, what was it fun, or was it just annoying all the times that you didn't get to?
I liked it, but I don't know over a much longer period if that becomes the novelty wears off a little bit.
I don't know, but that's something that you don't see in many video games, an institutional way to build in disappointment, because I suspect it might be a really good thing, because that experience of like, that's not how I would have handled it. You don't get that very often in a video game, and I think it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah. I think you are very right. It's interesting. I like the fact that they've figured out a way to make somebody not be able to mess up your experience.
Someone can't come along and grief what you're trying, what you're really trying to do with your character.
Or if they do, much as like when Valve put together or Team Fortress 2, it was a conscious decision to make the spy so appealing to griefers that if you want to grief, then be a spy, because you can ruin everyone else's experience and it's in character to the game. And so likewise, they're doing a similar thing here where you could be a griefer for all of these decisions, but you'll just be playing the appropriate character of somebody on the dark side of the force.
Yeah. My biggest worry when this game was even first announced and the direction that they were going became apparent is the experience that I've had many times with MMOs and lots of different MMOs is that whenever I've grouped up or even played with friends who have a little more experience, or when I'm trying to level my character to level up to where they got to or something, like almost always it'll be the situation where I'll go to a quest that they've already done and they're like, oh, just go over here, grab that and come back to me, or follow me, I'll tell you where it is, it's right over here. Or just, there's an impatience that kind of steals my interactive experience, my narrative experience, because they just want to get through it. And the very nature of a community, of a situation that you're having with someone else, if they've been through it, they don't want to deal with that, and you've got to sort of catch up, and you don't get to take your time and experience it the way you want to. And it seems like BioWare has been very sensitive to that particular concern, and I'm really glad about it, because particularly with this franchise and this style of gameplay, I want to have my story. I want to experience it and take my time and not be pressured in that way when I'm playing with other people.
Right. Well, and I don't know that there's any way to control, how rude or fast to hustle people are, with their way of wanting to play the game. But what I suspect happens, and again, this is just a credit to BioWare or me blindly believing in them, is that there'll be enough variety of content that it won't be the type of thing where you're replaying certain quests over and over and over again. And instead, there's just such a wealth.
If you've
of
gotten to the
options.
point where you're bored and you feel like rushing through it, you've moved on to something else.
Exactly. Well, and from what I understood, I mean, what do they say? What was the stat they were quoting early on where they were saying if you played through every character as a single player, you could play the game for like 800 years and never see anything twice?
It's hours of content between all the classes, at least class story-wise and whatnot, not counting endgame and things like that. So, yeah, there's tons to do. Now, I experienced this a little bit at PAX East. Somebody was just being that guy in the random pairing I was in with that group who didn't care about the conversation. And he skipped through by hitting his space bar, but it only moved him to the choice quicker.
Right.
Everybody else's, cutscene played out normally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, good.
that's great. Now, did he when
I
he
love that.
made his choice? Did he have to just sit there and wait until
You have
everybody
to
else
sit
made
there
their
and
choice?
just wait. You know what I mean? You'd see the system message, waiting on this player, and yeah. So
No, that's
he
good.
made-
I like that. I think that's better than letting them get out of the dialogue system and move into the game content, because then they can be like, okay, I already got 3 of the whatever we need to get, and it's like, hey, whoa, I'm still listening to this awesome voice acting dude.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I'm that kind of guy too. I mean, obviously, like when I was playing Star Wars Galaxies, if I was running with a bunch of people who had done these heroics before, it was just a normal crew. We weren't bringing someone new. Sure, there was a lot of bang, 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 bang. We're done.
Yeah. Right.
But when we would bring new people, and I guess this speaks more to the quality of the players and the people you associate with the game. When we had someone new, no problem taking our time.
Mm-hmm.
No problem, letting them experience the whole thing the way you got to experience it the first time. Explaining, here's what's going to happen.
Well, you know what? Along that line, real quick, since again, both of you guys have had a different experience from me in that you've played with other people. I assume there's built-in voice capability, but do you find yourself using voice more often than typing, or were the interactions largely text-based, or how do you interact with other people when you randomly hook up with them?
I think we've gotten to the point now where it's almost all voice. Everybody's on vent in almost any MMO you're in.
Now, here's my complaint about this, though. Here's my problem with this moving into Star Wars The Old Republic. With the game being completely voiced, I don't really want to have to be competing with the game sound and Guild Ventrilo,
But you mentioned it yourself. You're talking about the MST3K effect. I think there's probably going to be a fair amount of that.
From what I understand, from what I've seen, BioWare don't think is putting voice into the game. I'm sure that I've already had.
Oh wait, they're not. I totally just assumed that would be a done deal. I mean, it's something that everybody obviously always uses. That would be weird if they would put so much effort into making sure everyone in the game had a voice except for the actual player.
Well, maybe, here's what I'm hoping. Here's what I'm hoping is that maybe they have done a good enough job with the leveling curve, the skills you're given, that when you're hitting your first couple of group things, it should be relatively easy in chat to say, hey, I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to go grab that,
Oh, so you don't want voice. You actually want it to be all text-based.
Well, for the general day in and day out gaming, yeah. I'm fine with that. Don't get me wrong, if we're running PvP war zones or we're doing endgame, obviously voice chat is going to be very, very useful in those situations. But do I feel like I need voice for a random pickup group? No, not at all. At least not if BioWare's done their job right.
No, see, okay, now here's what I would like to see is a compromise solution. And not really a compromise, but like, I would like to see pretty much what they were able to do with Settlers of Catan for the Xbox. You could play Settlers of Catan entirely using gestures. So it's like you could play against somebody who doesn't even speak English, but you can negotiate with each other by showing how many cards you want, showing what you're willing to trade, stuff that says, no, you're too far ahead, or shooting devil eyes at people. You could communicate effectively enough through emotes that you can full on play the game without ever talking. However, it's a very different experience from when there is voice, And then you're like, it's very quick and you're able to get a deeper level of negotiation with someone where they're like, well, I need the wool. And you're like, oh, no. Well, dude, I'm swimming in wood over here. If you just take 3 of these wood, you could trade it in a port trade for some sheep. And then, oh, yeah, no, that does make sense. And that kind of thing. I would imagine, I mean, MMOs are social. They're supposed to be social. And it would be a crime to me if they didn't have built-in voice.
Well, I have 2 things to say. First of all is, let's start our Settlers of Catan podcast, because I'm ready to do that. Let's do that right now. I'm ready to talk board games and Settlers for a long time. And secondly...
I'm surprised you haven't done that already, to be honest.
Me too. Secondly, I think my experience... I know for a fact my experience is going to be, I'll be in a guild, and I'll be sitting in guild vent playing this game. I mean, that's just how I experience MMOs, is that everybody's just kind of hanging out in vent, and then people group up and do quests together, and that's how it'll be. And I don't know if it's the game's needs to be the game's job to sort of mitigate that.
Well, what I do think is you're right. That is the way people play MMOs. And knowing that, why would you build an MMO and not just fold that in with your suite of things that you offer? Why not build that in game? Because it's, to me, if part of your experience of MMOs is that you want to experience the fantasy of this world, I would much rather load my in-game communicator than go outside of the game and load Ventrilo as a separate service. Because to me, that takes me outside of it.
Myself, here's my problem with the voice thing. And again, I hate to keep bringing it up. I bring it up like every show, but my long-term MMO experience was with Star Wars Galaxies. And again, when I was running with my regular people doing like heroics, if people said, hey, we're on vent, jump on, it was more because, they were being social than anything else. And we didn't always use it. We didn't need to use it. Again, if people know the game and know how they're playing, simple text in group chat should work just fine. But here's my problem, and this is something I ran into a lot, and I still run into a lot, doing Google Hangouts and things like that, is poor mic etiquette.
Oh, really? Like just making a lot of noise, breathing into the mic.
Mouth breathers, rude, blasting their music in the background. People don't have a lot of consideration. Not always. I'm not saying everyone's like this, but I've run into more than my share of people who don't know how to set their stuff up right. They're too quiet. They're too loud.
Yeah, but in any group setting, maybe it's awkward one-on-one, but in any group, people are pretty fast to tell each other to turn it down or shut it off or quit being a doofus.
So like I said, myself personally, my day in and day, am I going to be like jumping on strangers' Ventrilos? And I've seen, people talking about that like in the general discussion areas about how the game has to have Ventrilo. And I agree it's a nice perk sometimes, but it's not something I feel I have to use all the time and probably won't use all the time. So, it'll call for the situation. And,
actually that is a good point, because if what they want to do is manage the in-game experience from beginning to end and have it heavily curated, then having a random wild card of an open voice channel capability where somebody can run around shouting profanities or stuff that's outside of the game,
or just whatever,
right. It's easy to tune out the noise when it's just spam on a page written.
Yeah, when it's chat, wow, general chat's just gotten really stupid. You can just move over another tab or close chat, and not be a big deal. And
I don't know. I still think it's insane to launch this thing without a built-in voice communicator capability.
Here's the thing. I don't know any MMO that has launched with voice in it at launch. I've seen it be added in later, because it always seems to be one of those things of like Star Trek Online. Yes, Jeff, I was actually in your Star Trek Online guild for the whole month. You played that. I took a month off, came back, and the guild was gone. I'm like, what the hell happened? There was a lot. They added voice to that game, and before that, because that particular game had a horrible chat system.
All right, now how about this?
DCUO launch with voice?
I think it did. What? You're right. I take that back. You're right. I think DC. Unfortunately, no one's playing DCUO.
Now, maybe I'm just thinking about this because I've been playing with my new iPhone 4S. But would you want a built-in voice recognition capability where you could speak into the mic and it put it into the chat like as a bubble over your head or something. Or even if it had like down the road, I could see in 5 years, it could be the type of thing where as you speak, it translates your words into printed text and then voice, it actually speaks with a particular, the voice of your character.
Talk. It's crazy talk you're talking.
That would be amazing.
It would be, but look at all the money and hardware resources.
No,
Apple had
it would be
put
minor.
into
It'd be
Siri,
trivial.
you know?
In a world where you can have it built into your phone, there's no reason you can't have it built in. It would add such an awesome layer to everything.
Really? Why not just have the on-screen character lip sync your actual words?
Yes, that would be awesome too. Why not? All of that.
All of it.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm mixed on this.
And in fact, it should take any idioms that you say that are related to the 21st century. It like scrubs them out and replaces them with stuff appropriate for Korriban or whatever.
So you're like, I have to go to the space bathroom.
Yes, exactly. It actually edits your phrasing on the fly.
It just adds space in front of things.
Yes.
I need to go. Hang on one second, guys. I have to go get some more space Doritos.
You're like, when you actually say, my mom is calling me down for dinner, you're like, I'm sorry, an important communique has just arrived. I'm afraid I have a mission downstairs.
Oh, man, guys, I have to go moisture farming.
Yes, exactly. That's the way it would be if Steve Jobs was alive and in charge of Star Wars The Old Republic. That's the way it would be, heavily curated like that. So you never broke character, no matter how hard you tried.
Oh, guys, my Jedi Master just got home, and now I have to go moisture farming.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting idea, but now we're definitely out in fantasy land.
Can we please get serious back to this game about Jedi Knights in another galaxy?
Game of Jedi, Space Wizards and Pirates.
Yes.
My favorite new game. Who knows? I'm mixed on the whole voice thing. I don't need it in my day in and day out. Like just hanging out when I'm solo questing. I've never been a big fan of just general vent, but you know what I mean? Maybe that was just the guild I was in. That was the way we rolled. And I'll have a different feeling about it when, Old Republic launches and we're doing our thing. And we'll see. I'm ready for a new experience. So I'm not like set in my ways. I've seen a lot of that too, where folks are like, it's got to be this way or else. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Accessing sponsored database. Advertiser.
So, hey man, you want to take a moment and thank the people who make the Cantina band possible?
Absolutely, Brian. Once again, Alpha Dog Systems is sponsoring this episode of the Cantina band. They did drop me a note. Want to let folks know that they have added the AMD Bulldozer 6 and 8 CPUs to their high-end Aquarius and Ares systems.
8 CPUs, man. We
of
live in the
CPUs.
future.
And they're also stocking the Intel Sandy Bridge CPU, the i7 2700K. So they want folks to know that. The reason I am so interested in what these folks over at Alpha Dog Systems are doing is they build gaming PCs to order. They use quality parts. They didn't use any of that cheap stuff. No cheap power supplies, no cheap motherboards. Everything they put in the system is top of the line.
See,
lowest failure rate in the industry type stuff.
Here's part of the reason I think it's great that they're a sponsor for this particular podcast is because it's not like when you buy any other video game, you're just like, oh, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to have this experience. I'm going to learn this story. Like this is weirdly, I think most of us are planning to live in this world for the next year or so. And with that being the case, like all of a sudden, it's kind of stops being about the $60 decision to buy the game. And instead you're like, what kind of window do I want to this world? How vividly and vibrantly do I want to experience it? And that's why, I don't know. Mainly I'm looking at 8 cores. That would be awesome.
Lifetime technical support at every desktop computer they build. You got a question, you need to change something around, you want to upgrade something, they're going to help you out. I mean, how many computer makers really do that for you these days? These folks are very passionate. They care about what they do. And even better yet, Brian, we've got our own discount code.
This is the important part. Cash money in your pocket. We're going to give you savings and you'll make us look good. You just got to use the promo code CANTINA when you check out. Not only 5% off, And but most importantly, we get the credit, and they know that it's your listening to this podcast that makes all this possible.
Absolutely. So, folks, you like the show, please, these Alpha Dog Systems was the first to step up, went out of their way to get a hold of us and say, hey, we really like what you guys are doing, want to support the show. If you like what we're doing, help, support them, support us, check them out. They've got some great prices, some great product. And not only are they doing all the desktop stuff, they also do custom-built notebook laptop computers. So they're offering a little bit of everything.
AlphaDogSystems.com, our BFFs.
All right. Thank
Sweet.
you, guys.
We now return you to your netcast.
Let's see.
You guys should call your any sponsor you have. You should call it because they aid the show, right? You should call them the Cantina Band-Aids.
I like that.
For those who don't know, I'm a big fan of Jeff's. Been a fan of the Totally Rad Show for many, many years. It's part of the reason why I'm doing the show with Brian. It's part of the reason why we have a weekly show on Collection DX now, is because these guys impressed me so much. So I happened to catch your BlizzCon coverage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there was some big stuff. Not only did we as Tor fans get the embargo lift for the press and got some feedback on what was going on there, there was some stuff announced at BlizzCon that you've been because this juggernaut known as the Old Republic is coming. What happened over there? What was the big deal?
Yeah, I called the BlizzCon stuff a targeted strike. It was like Mon Mothma was just sitting in a room going, we have the plans to the Death Star, and we shooting a torpedo down this little hole.
Many Taurens died to bring us this information.
Yeah, exactly. It seems pretty clear that they they see the new kid on the block coming into town on the 20th, and they want to get people locked into playing WoW. They have this a very interesting way of leveraging an upcoming property. Diablo 3 is coming. We don't know exactly when, but we know it is coming. And they're saying if you lock into committing to buying a year subscription to WoW, now you don't have to pay for it all at once, but you have to commit to buying a full year at the monthly fee, you get Diablo 3 free.
Now, Diablo 3, when it does come out, will not have any kind of subscription, right? There's
not going to be a monthly fee to play Diablo 3. No, there will not be.
Because if there was, and this is sort of the number one, this is smart in that I don't know how they could wring out any more enthusiasm for Warcraft right now, because mainly because there's no expansions on the horizons that are being talked about, or
they also announced
an expansion of
Mists of Pandaria. Mists of Pandera.
Well, I stand corrected then, because what I was gonna say is that if they could kind of do a judo move and take enthusiasm. If what they have to deal with is a direct competitor to World of Warcraft, then it makes sense to turn everyone's focus to another very popular Blizzard property with Diablo 3. But if they're able to say new content in World of Warcraft, then maybe they do have a leg to stand on.
Now, Jeff,
it was kind of a
Brian.
1-2
Apparently,
punch.
Brian missed this news. Explain to him what the whole expansion is and what they're adding to the game, because I thought it was an interesting contrast, and I thought you made a really good point about this.
Yeah, it's definitely true. It was a 1-2 punch of like, hey, we'll give you this free other game, but also get excited about WoW again because we have Mists of Pandera coming out. Now, Mists of Pandera is an expansion that will introduce a new class and a new race to WoW. A huge new area. It raises the level cap to 90. The new race is the Pandarens.
Wait a minute! I did see this, and everybody was like,
wow.
Yeah, they've joked about the panda race for a long time, and then they finally actually put it out.
Yeah, that's right. It was part of the lore all the way back to Warcraft 3, but and it was often the butt of some April Fool's jokes and stuff like that. But now it really is going to be part of the game, and it looks really pretty. The new area is stunning.
Yeah, the photos I saw, it all looks like a very, very Japanese inspired, very Far East.
Yeah, the new class is Monk, and so there's a lot of martial arts influenced areas. Some really wild ideas. For example, the new starting area for the Pandarens, is on the back of a turtle, a giant sea turtle. So there's like buildings built there and stuff, but you're literally on a sea turtle in the middle of the ocean, which is pretty cool. But the point that I made on TRS, and I think holds true, is that Star Wars is coming out, and it clearly is aimed directly at that hardcore market, the Star Wars lovers, the fans of the very cool. And so I don't think that they decided, you know what, we're not going to go for cool. We're not going to fight on that territory. We have a very cool game. We have, sword and sorcery, but there's this other untapped market, I think, of younger gamers, of female gamers, of gamers that are more drawn to a kinder, gentler, more cuddly, adorable, fun world, and that is what they're delivering.
Well, and this is the right time to do it. It's like when I was in high school, I noticed really early on that a teacher could start off being a hard ass, but then turn out to be a lot of fun later on. But if they started off trying to be fun and funny, you never had respect for them, and they could never get the class to shut up, right? So it's really it makes sense that Warcraft, after being this hard-edged world for so long, can get a little bit silly.
Cataclysm this time last year, and that was such a heavy, dark thing that and with, like you said, the Old Republic coming out being this hardcore, serious sort of tone, this might be the way to go for them. But the thing I think is interesting, I want to bring this back to what Jeff said a little while ago about the annual pass thing. They presented that to the audience, and it is from their customer's perspective. It's like a great loyalty thing. Hey, we know you love our stuff. If you just commit that you're going to pay us for the next 12 months, we'll give you this, game for free because we know you want to play it anyway. While that's all well and good, and I think also they're giving anybody who does that's going to get access to the beta testing for the new expansion, right, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think this whole thing was done just to look good on paper so that they don't appear to be hemorrhaging subscriptions when older public.
Oh, so if they stop, like right now, they measure everything based on the current people who are engaged in paying month to month. So by getting people to commit now, regardless of when they pay or how they pay, then it shifts the focus away so they don't ever have to have that news story of 20% of all WoW users defecting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It locks people into a year of paying for their subscription. And from a consumer standpoint, people are saying to themselves, oh, well, I've been paying for this. I might as well pay for another year.
And I was gonna pay for Diablo, so why not?
Free copy of Diablo 3.
I
absolutely.
And 3 months from now, when Star Wars is out, and people are like, you know what? Maybe I'll cancel that WoW subscription. Well, they've already committed to a year.
Wow. So this is a full-on poison pill that they're offering.
I think it's brilliant.
Nefarious, but brilliant. It's going to be an interesting year with WoW having, and it's funny, I see this a lot in the general forums. I spend way too much time in the forums for Old Republic. I think it's making me dumber, really. There's a lot of people whose first MMO was World of Warcraft, and they don't seem to have, any idea in their head that there's plenty of stuff that came before and plenty of stuff that came after, and not everything has to be an exact copy of that. And
no, okay. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it does have to be an exact copy.
Obviously, they've set the plateau.
Yeah, it's a money factory. There's never been a video game property as successful, as addictive. I mean, how quickly do we forget about EverQuest? There was the term EverQuest widow, where people who divorce their husbands over the fact that they're in love with EverQuest, and we forgot about EverQuest instantly thanks to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is exactly the right amount of free-based awesome that is it has defined the category.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be an interesting year. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know that Jeff and Alex both kind of said the same thing I just did, that I think this is just to kind of, make themselves look good next year. And I want to throw that out there. It seemed like a lot of folks weren't really catching that, and I did when I watched the announcement. So real quick, you had mentioned at the top of the show, I want to kind of move on to our last topic before we wrap this up today. You had mentioned you like being a good guy all the time, right, Jeff?
I tend to, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. See, so I'm approaching the Old Republic as, I mean, again, I've mentioned I played Star Wars Galaxies, being a Star Wars fan my whole life. Brian and I have talked about this before on the show. My Star Wars fantasy is to be a Jedi. That's my wish fulfillment. That's the role I want to play in that universe. Brian, I'm not sure. I think he's still, not really sure what he wants to be in that
exactly.
universe.
No, that's.
But what about you, Jeff? What are you looking to play, and why Republic over Sith? Because The thing I'm noticing, and it's beginning to concern me actually, is everywhere I look, everyone who's talking about this game seems to be talking about wanting to go Sith. Everyone's going Sith, and it's really looking like it's an 80-20 split.
Now, okay, now where did you get that number? Is that in any way scientific or?
No. That's not no way scientific, other than my observations from the different podcasts, the different things I listen to, the different sites I'm reading, the general forums, and just the feedback in general. Everyone, like when you talk about it, they're like, "Oh, I'm going Sith."
I got two theories about it. Number one, the theory is it's a prequel FU to George Lucas. The prequels were all about the Republic as these boring old duffers who sit around on their high horses and tell people.
The prequels are the Sith story. You're just not looking at them right.
No,
I think quite the opposite.
Well, okay, so and
I love that. No, that should be the box quote for every prequel release from now on. You're just not looking at them right. Episode 1, you're just not looking at it right.
See it right for the first time.
Yeah, in 3D later next year.
The second idea is that all of the cinematics have really told an interesting story of the Sith being the rebels this time, because the Republic.
No, dude, I think you've got to go back and rewatch those. The Sith are the overlords.
No, but they're back.
Mow down the Republic.
No, but that's just it. Is that the Republic? Like they tell a story of anger and coming back for revenge. Like the Sith are back. We're the underdogs, and I think of the two categories, the closest one to an underdog is the Sith. I think. And I think that's why.
I think you're overthinking it. I think it's just that anti-heroes are cool and the Sith look cooler.
Well, that's just it. I'm wondering, does everybody, like, when I grew up, everybody wanted to be Luke Skywalker or Han Solo, with the original trilogy.
The underdogs, yes.
Now everybody wants to be Darth Maul, it seems.
The underdogs,
really?
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's interesting to me. I've been lobbying my buddies. We're going to make a guild and we're going to do the whole thing. And I've been lobbying them to go Republic because I want to play the good guys, and I feel like really the same thing happened with WoW. Is the Horde became almost on every server. The Horde was the more heavily weighted, and Blizzard did a lot of stuff to try to make the Alliance a more desirable faction to play as. But I think anti-heroes are cool, and people are like, yeah, I want a red lightsaber and look awesome, and I look dark, and I'm in dark robes, and those are cool, and black's awesome, and I get that, but I also think here's a big point too. Being a bounty hunter sounds awesome. Boba Fett, super popular, right?
Yeah.
Smuggler doesn't sound as cool as bounty hunter.
Bull, dude. Smuggler's the best class in the game.
Is that what you're gonna be?
Yes, totally. Let me tell you, dude. For me, it was all about that opening cinematic where it's like you had the crazy space cowboy smuggler, and I was like, I just want to be that guy. I want to know his story. Yes, smuggler for the win.
I think I'm going to end up being a Jedi because none of my friends want to be Jedis.
I know. I'm with you, Jeff. I'm with you. Now, if you don't know, Brian and I have two guilds set up right now, and I do need to have a conversation with them offline about this, because the closer we get and the more I'm seeing like everybody's going Sith, we would probably have far better options as a guild in general if we just stayed Republic. You know what I mean?
We'll be fine. Diamond Club will do all right.
Literally, the Sith Guild has like twice as many members.
That's because I'm the one curating the Sith Guild, and if people only make one character, they're going to join both.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It breaks my heart a little bit. I thought there'd be more Jedi love out there, and who knows? Maybe when the game goes live and people start playing and they may go, you know what? I think I'm not enjoying these stories, or I don't like being the bad guy. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Well, and keep in mind also that the Sith aren't necessarily the bad guy. They're just the tightly regimented guys, because you could be a light side Sith, and I think that's again part
Sounds
of
like what a bad guy would say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, we're up against my heart out here, so we got to wrap things up. Do we have a voicemail that we can listen to?
Yeah, so folks, we have a voicemail set up on the site, thecantinaband.com. It's 1330 TCB Talk. That's 822-8255. We got this voicemail from Unknown.
Yeah, guys, I caught the show the other night, watched it on Justin TV, and I thought it was quite good. So keep up the good work, and thanks very much. Bye.
That was it. Hey, folks, when you call, that, and I just wanted to prove we will play your voicemails. We appreciate the feedback. Really nice of you. But tell us who you are, where you're calling from, so we know at least, a little bit about you.
Yeah, call out our BS, dude. Put us in our place. Tell us what's wrong. In fact, the more angry and off the handle you fly, the more likely we're going to play your voicemail.
Or you just whatever you do, don't be like the callers on the instance and smoke a big fat bowl before you call. Those are always the
way to
funniest.
ruin half your listeners.
Yes. We should point out also that we really appreciate all of the nice reviews on iTunes. Got some nice comments here. Stickless says, fantastic start to what will surely become the most passionate and informative podcast in the Star Wars Old Republic culture. Great job to everyone involved. Cast feels perfectly in sync. Can't wait to hear more and see the community build around this podcasting game. Bravo.
And one last one by Lord Raven says, great show and just what I was looking for. Test drove a few other Star Wars tour cast and didn't find anything as clean in a technical sense or engaging. Looking forward to lots more in the future.
And we are looking forward as well. And we're looking forward to the game.
Yeah, dude, December 20th.
I think you should make Sweater catch on.
I don't like Sweater. I like Tour.
Sweater.
No, it's sweaty.
If you want to destroy my sweater. That could be your theme song for this podcast.
That's our cue to wrap things up.
We'll tell you what, before we wrap it up, Jeff, again, thank you so much for jumping on. Where can folks catch you?
Easiest way is to follow me on Twitter, at Jeff Cannata with 2 N's and 1 T. You can also see episodes of the Totally Rad Show every single day, Monday through Friday, at Revision 3. You go to totallyradshow.com for that. And I'm also on the Weekend Confirmed every single week at shacknews.com.
One of my favorite video game podcasts, by the way. Really enjoy you guys over there. I really do. That's a really good conversation you guys are always having over there. Brian, how about you? What do you want to promote?
Follow me on the tweeters. The Shwood, SHWOOD, or you can do Google Plus at gplus.2/Shwood.
All right. And for myself, hey, Twitter for me, AT0MXII.
Easy to say. Rolls off the tongue.
Adam12 is what it's supposed to be. Exactly. Easily remembered.
You're too elite for your own good, sir.
I think so. But the problem is, Brian told me a long time ago that once he gets to know you online, you're not allowed to change your avatar. You're not allowed to change your name.
Yes. So don't change your picture. Don't change your name.
I'm stuck with it at this point. Anyway,
Forever.
folks. Till next time, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in a few weeks. Bye.
Awesome.
Hey, we don't serve their kind here.
What, who, the droids?
We can make them wait outside.
No, droids are fine. But you two will have to wait outside.
Okay.
Why don't you wait out by the speeder? We don't want any trouble.
See, I told you we'd get thrown out.
Looks like it's Nar Shaddaa for you two.
Dude, we didn't even set anything on fire this time. Fine.